Check that out.
So hi, I'm Amos from Moog Music, and we're just rocking out a little bit on the new Moog Sub 37. Sure, okay. Okay, we've got to be careful. There are sound police here. If we go over 85 decibels, they'll write us a ticket. Maybe, I don't know. I'm kind of on camera trying to do an interview here, so you're... No. Gosh, well that was weird. Hi again, I'm Amos from Moog Music, and we are continuing to try to demo the Moog Sub 37 in the very chaotic Moog booth at NAMM 2014 here in Anaheim, California. So if I can manage to, I would like to show you sort of an overview of the Sub 37, show you some of the new features that we have here. And so, okay, looks like the coast is clear. Let's give it a shot. So, to start with, on the Sub 37, we have an LCD programming panel that is new. I should let me back up here. I hope you can hear me because I can barely hear myself. All right, we're good. Great. So the Sub 37 is based on the basic analog platform, the basic analog voice that we introduced last year in the Sub Fatty synthesizer. And so we took that same basic synth engine and we made a few analog tweaks, which I'll get to in a moment, but primarily what we did was we extended the panel, we extended the keyboard, so we have a 37-note keyboard with aftertouch here, and with the additional panel space, we were able to take all of the tricky and interesting hidden features that exist within the Sub Fatty and bring them out to the panel for easy hands-on access. And while we were at it, we came up with a number of additional features that we had been asked for, or that we wanted to bring in, and we were able to fill out the panel. For example, we have now an arpeggiator with step sequencer on board, and this can synchronize to MIDI clock, or it can be free running, and you have a lot of options here, classic patterns, up, down, in order, and random arpeggiation mode, which I know a lot of people ask for. And in addition to your traditional arpeggiation, we have a step sequencer and a real-time step recording mode. So you can enter in a sequence freely, and let's see, that should play back. What I'm doing right now is I'm adjusting the variable slope of the cutoff filter from 4-pole to 1-pole, which gives you a much richer, rougher sound. I'll turn that off just for the moment. So that was a basic step sequence, and you can synchronize. There are 2 LFOs on board here, so as opposed to the Sub Fatty single modulation bus, we have 2 fully independent modulation buses with classic Moog, classic LFO waveform shapes, as well as programmable sources. In fact, the modulation buses are extremely deep. That's one of the things that we brought most to the fore with this instrument, is truly flexible and elaborate modulation. So if you're a sound designer or a tone tweaker, this is a really rewarding instrument because you have both fully programmable modulation sources as well as freely programmable modulation destinations per mod bus. So you can do things like amplitude modulation directly from the panel, of course waveform modulation for pulse width, PWM style sounds, and you can modulate each LFO can modulate the rate of the other LFO or the rate of the envelopes, which can give you some like really complex, very modular synthesis kind of sounds going on. The modulation buses can, of course, the LFOs can synchronize to the arpeggiator, so you can have a lot of beat synchronized motion in your sound, which is a lot of fun. Moving on to the actually, yes. Are we going? Yes, are we good? I don't envy your editing duties, my friend. I think there'll be a lot of editing involved, but that's all right.
No, that's why we're recording the synth separately.
Right, okay, very good. addition to the programmable sources and destinations, there's also a lot of programmable real-time control. You can control the amount of modulation on either Modbus with aftertouch from the keyboard, with the mod wheel, with MIDI breath control, with velocity, in any combination. So all of these things can work together to shape your sound as it evolves in real time as you play. So you can put a lot of your own emphasis and a lot of your own mojo on the sound. Moving on to the oscillator section, we've brought all of the hidden features that we introduced in the Minotaur or the Sub-Fatty, we've brought directly to the panel, such as keyboard reset for the oscillators. And this is a nice feature where you have normally free-running analog oscillators that will phase in and out as you play in a natural organic fashion. However, for a lot of modern dance music especially, you want each hit to be punchy and precise and one the same as the next. And that's very hard to do in analog until you add keyboard reset, which resets the phase of the oscillators to 0 on each note. Another really cool feature that we've added to the oscillator section is Duo mode. This is, the Sub-37 is labeled a paraphonic synthesizer, and the reason for that curious terminology is that despite being a single synthesizer voice where everything runs through one filter and one amplifier instead of envelopes, you can, in Duo mode, each oscillator can track pitch independently. So you can assign oscillator 2 to track the high note that you're playing or the low note, and if you're playing multiple notes on the keyboard, oscillator 1 and the sub-oscillator will track one note that you're playing, and oscillator 2 will independently track a second note. So you can play bass and lead on the same keyboard patch, or you can play intervals, which really opens up a whole new set of playing techniques and a whole new bunch of sounds. Moving on to the mixer section, we've taken a cue from the Mini Moog Model D, a couple of cues in the mixer section. One is the on-off switches per sound source that lets you easily dial in a precise ratio of the oscillators that you like, and then you can solo or mute them individually without disturbing the volume levels that you've set, as opposed to just turning the volume up and down. This is a really nice way to work. Another cool thing that we've added here is this feedback control, and this is a trick that's very familiar to Mini Moog owners and users, where you take the mixed output of the mixer, all the oscillators together, and you feed that signal back into the external audio input of the synth, and then you can turn it up until it distorts the whole system, and you get this really cranked oscillator sound that just it breaks up like an amplifier. It's just really gnarly and hairy. I've got to be careful because of the noise police. But at any rate, so the feedback control just adds a huge new sound to this instrument, and that is in series with the multi-drive circuit that we introduced also with the Sub-Fatty, which is a FET transistor overdrive, the sort of thing that you would normally only see in a stomp box or a piece of pro audio gear, and that's in series with this feedback. The two of them together, with the filter shaping the sound, really gives you, it takes the whole overdriven, gnarly Moog sound to another level of obesity and brutality, if that's what you want. I think I mentioned the configurable filter slope earlier, and again, in combination with the feedback, especially if you turn down to 6 dB per octave and crank up the feedback, you get just a huge amount of just teeth and hair in the sound that is a very new thing for us. I should mention also in the envelope generator section, users of the Sub-Fatty may be familiar with a lot of the hidden envelope features that are most easily accessible with the editor that ships with that instrument. In this case, we brought all of those controls to the front panel, so you can choose single or multi-triggering for the envelopes directly from the front panel. You can reset the attack to 0 with each key press, or have the attack start from the current envelope level of the previous note. And these are, if you're familiar with sort of the classic Moog vocabulary of sounds, these are some of the really good things that you want to be able to access right away, to cause your notes to pop out or to cause them to blend in to a more liquid melodic line. A really cool feature of these envelopes is that they are looping. You can latch them on and loop them, and they become essentially like additional complex LFOs, where the shape of the LFO is set by the attack, decay, and release times, and additionally the delay and hold phases, which are holding the envelope level at 0 for an amount of time or at peak for an amount of time. All all of these things together give you, a 5-stage, I think, envelope that can loop, which can also be a modulation source. So if you combine these things together, you can have looping envelopes, which are changing the speed of your LFO, which is in turn sweeping the frequency of oscillator 2, which could be hard synchronized to oscillator 1, etc., etc. And this is such a new instrument to us at this point that I personally have yet to truly explore all of these sound design possibilities that I'm describing.
I've actually got a question.
Yes.
Can you sync in Duomo?
Yes, you can. You can turn on hard sync and turn on duo mode, and then you can play the synced oscillator overtones melodically separately from the actual pitch that you're playing, which you would set with the other key that you hold down. That I have tried, and it's a lot of fun. Let me see if I can dial that up for you right quickly. So, all right, I'm just going to start with an init sound. I'm going to dial up 2 sawtooth waveforms. All right, so that's basic duo mode. Now I'm going to turn on hard sync. So that is a really fun trick. I'm glad you asked. If you have any additional questions, I think I've done a basic overview here, but I'm happy to elaborate. I think I have left out a few details, which I may have mentioned elsewhere, but the arpeggiator, well, no, I did mention the step sequencer, but I didn't mention the XOX style step sequencing using these 16 preset buttons on the front panel as a step editing interface. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's a fun trick. There's also rest and tie for the step sequencer, so that you can really have more complex patterns where you've got different note lengths, rests in the middle of your pattern, and the tie function will let you do glide, for example, only on tied notes, similar to a certain little silver sequence synthesizer that a lot of people are fond of. That's going to be a lot of fun. There will be additional advanced preset editing. We tried to keep as much as possible on the panel, but there are other things. Someone asked me the other day if we could add swing to the arpeggiator. So that's going to be in the preset edit section. You can control variable swing and also variable gate length for the arpeggiator. So you can set what percentage of the time the note is on versus off in your arpeggiation, which is really musically useful. You can get like really short sounds and then smear them out into a more of a continuous pattern. Well, I think I may have about talked myself dry here. I hope that whets your appetite to see more about the Sub 37. Thanks again from Moog Music in Anaheim, California at the NAMM Show 2014. Cheers.